Good morning, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, wherever you're watching. I am Rachel B. Lee, and it is Friday, the end of the month, the last day of school for Jaden and Skylar, and the book launched. So it's kind of a big time. It's a big time for Amy. It's a big time for us here at Standout Authority, supporting and loving on Amy, because this week on Tuesday, she officially launched Living on Purpose. And Amy Eliza Wong is truly a light worker. She is an incredible woman with an incredible background. And what I love so much about Amy and the people that I bring onto this, I always bring on people that I believe are super knowledgeable, super educated, have credibility and legit experience. Right? And that's you, Amy. That is
Thank you, Rachel. Oh, I'm so touched.
I mean, not that many people can say that they're like a math major and mathematician from UC Berkeley, which still continues to impress me. But we're just so excited. I'm so excited to have you here today. I want to open up first, Amy, with you just talking a little bit about yourself and the journey to create this book, Living on Purpose. And then we'll kind of go from there. Josh is here. Yes, if you're watching, please let us know where you're in from. Say hello, get those comments in.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Rachel. I'm so happy to be here with you. First off, this is such a pleasure. I love our conversations, and I'm stoked that we get to have this conversation today on such an important day. It's Friday, like you said, the last day of the month, and it's the Friday right after we release the book. Feels so good. Yeah, so I'm a leadership coach, and I've been coaching for over a decade. And I would say, even though I've formally been coaching for a decade, I've been coaching way longer than that. I just didn't recognize it back in the day. Um, and the journey to get here has really, truly been magnificent. And I have to mention, if it wasn't for the support of my amazing husband and my incredible children, I have two children who are 14 and 9, really have buoyed my spirits throughout this whole journey that I've been on. But now today, as a coach, I partner with leaders and with teams on all things growth, transformation, and flow. And an area of expertise that I really hone in on with a lot of people is this layer of communication, because this is really interesting for folks, and it's really everybody wants to get better at communication, and so that's an area of expertise and passion of mine. Now, this in my world, communication is not the cause. Communication is an effect, it's a symptom of the deeper stuff, the relationship we have with ourselves. And that, while communication is really interesting and everybody wants to talk about that because everybody wants to get better at it, because
Yeah.
that's where everything's happening, is here in this layer.
Yeah.
What's really interesting to me is the engine that gives rise to this layer. And that is really where this book comes from, and why I wrote this book. So that deeper stuff, that relationship we have with ourselves, our mental constructs, the beliefs we hold, the interpretations we make, that really is fundamental to understand. We have to understand that, and we have to get to that if we really truly want to thrive. So this book has been really in the works for a large handful of years. I knew without a shadow of a doubt what I was going to write about in 2014. I knew the content of this book was clear, but I also knew I wasn't ready yet, because I had been, I'm coaching all the time, I'm working with folks, and something I describe in the book, one of the choices, so that the subtitle is 5 Deliberate Choices to Realize Fulfillment and Joy. One of the choices in the book is to feel it out, don't figure it out. And there's so much wisdom to that. It's not just this topical statement like, oh, feel it out, dude, it's so much better. There's so much more to it. And, I live by that. And I knew back in 2014 or so, that I wasn't ready, but I would be at some point. And so I was in a process of collecting the stories, the examples, the research. And, it wasn't until 2019 that I really started to feel ready. And I could tell because it was just this feeling of like wild horses couldn't hold me back from this. I knew I was ready. And through a series of incredibly synchronous events that really felt magical, um, it really came to life in a, I don't want to say effortless, but it's that you put effort in, but there's so much flow, you know? So it
Yeah.
was this really incredible process bringing it to life. And so that's where this comes from. And I'm overjoyed because it captures this book really does capture like the fundamental mental shifts we have to go through, perceptual shifts, if we really want to stop getting in our way, if we want to thrive, if we want to feel free and inner peace and calm and joy and to feel connected with one another. So that's kind of where this book came from, and I'm just I'm still on a high. So much so I got sick right after it launched. True to form, right?
Of
Boom.
course. Well, you put your heart and soul into this, and I want to talk a little bit about it because, a lot of people that will watch this are going to be on LinkedIn and they're career-driven business professionals. Some of them are owning their own business, some of them are working for somebody else. And so you kind of hit on two things on the communication side, which I know you have a specific background in conversational intelligence, and then the other big juicy side around to be really great at communication is actually more of that inside job,
Yeah.
and that feeling it out. So can you, not to like go, we want everybody to read this book, but some of the principles, because I had the great pleasure of reading it and highlighting it, talk about let's just talk about this, feeling it out
Sure.
versus figuring it out. And what does that mean in practicality? What's the state that we're in? And
Yeah.
what is that choice, right? Because it's the deliberate choice
Mhm.
that we get to make in that moment, to really live a life that's more on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so I've worked with a lot of folks over the 10 years, and everyone comes to coaching really, and everybody's doing what they're doing because they want something. We have goals, we have desires, we have preferences, we have visions, we make 5-year plans, we have vision boards that we and particularly for the professionals and the ambitious professionals that I work with, we're driven. We want to achieve things. And so when folks come to coaching, there's always this, yeah, I want to, I want to become CEO, in 5 years. I want to own my own business. I want to retire. So we all have these goals. And so what I have to help people see is that, yes, while I'm totally aligned with what you want to achieve and we're going to make that happen, what's really important to understand is that it's actually not the thing you want. Everything you want, whether it's more money, a more stable job. It's actually it's you want the thing because you think it's gonna make you feel a certain way. So it's not the thing you want. There's an assumption that if I get the thing, then I'm gonna actually feel happy.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna feel at peace. Then I'm gonna feel fulfilled. I'm gonna feel meaningful, or fill in the blank. And so what I have to do with a lot of folks, and that's really what this book starts off with, is helping people recognize, we've forgotten that deep truth. And I blame, I really think it's because of our educational system and just how we are conditioned as humans to succeed, right? So, you go to school, you are told to get good grades, get good grades. If you get good grades, you're going to make your parents happy. If you make your parents happy, that's great. You also need to get good grades so you can get into a good college, so that you can get a good job, so you can make lots of money, and then you'll be happy. And
Yeah.
so we place all of our power into this unspoken formula. Follow the formula, do what you're told, so that then you can feel good. But nobody's talking about that feeling state. We're just talking about the thing, and we stop at the thing. And so we deaden our ability to feel out what it is that actually feels good. And I hear this all the time with folks. It's, gosh, I'm in this great job. My life looks great on paper, but I just don't feel fulfilled. Like everything I could have wanted, I've achieved, but yet I feel, I don't know, like something's missing. And it's 100% because we set out to follow the thing, do the thing. And so that's what I call figuring it out. It's the strategy that we've all become indoctrinated to. Follow the strategy, and then you're going to be happy. And so we have to back up a little bit and say, all right, and I'm all for a strategy. I mean, I am a planner. I'm a hyperachiever. I love the goals. I love I mean, that's great. But let's not lose sight of why we do that. We do it
Yeah.
because ultimately there's a feeling state on the other end. And you know what's so fun, Rachel, is when I'm in conversation and with folks and I bring this up and there's this very, very obvious but unspoken truth. All of a sudden you can see someone shift and go, "Oh, that's a that's a good question. What do I wanna feel?" And
Yeah.
this tends to be really invigorating when folks are at a crossroads where they're like, "I wanna shift careers, but I don't know what I wanna do. I know I need to be doing something else. Am I in the right role? Am I in the right industry?" And so if you hear someone talking at that crossroads moment, you'll hear, "God, I really need to figure this out. I really need to, I really need to figure this out.
Yeah.
I need to." And so we can tell by our language just
Totally.
where we are. And it's like, "Oh, this makes sense. This makes sense." And so
Mhm.
I have to help people.
Let me
Okay,
build
well,
my roadmap.
yeah,
Here's how I'm
yeah,
gonna get there.
exactly. Here's the like, okay, here's
Yeah.
the strategy that's going to get me from point A to point B. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But it's going to almost always fall flat unless we map that strategy to, well, are you factoring in what you want to feel?
Right.
And so the moment we wake up to that, all of a sudden the landscape changes a little bit and clarity now emerges. Oh, and now I have options I wouldn't have considered otherwise. And
Yeah.
that is it's really empowering, and it can be scary because for most of us, for the driven hyperachievers,
Yeah.
we've totally deadened our ability to feel what feels good in
Mm,
favor of what sounds right.
that's
And,
true.
to trust that feeling can be
Yeah.
really scary because the psyche goes, "Wait, whoa, 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 whoa. If you do opposite of what you've been doing, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail." And
Yes.
so we have to bump up against some some of that patterning, which can be pretty and I say invigorating, not scary, but invigorating. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's so true. And some of the people I just want to say hello. We got Sean Curtis from Connecticut, Germain, talking about the if then fallacy. So true.
Yeah.
Michelle Larson. Hey, Michelle, where's the passion? That is the missing piece.
Yes.
And looks like one of your fans, Kelvin Zhang, is just
Oh,
saying, hey,
Calvin,
what's
hey,
up?
hey. What's up, Calvin? I'm glad you joined. Thank you.
And yeah, this is, people are really resonating with this, Amy, because we've all felt that. And then
Mhm.
and then you're just in this like pursuit. And I really resonate because I feel like this has been me. And then making that big jump out of corporate was like that ultimate feel it out moment.
Yeah,
Which was so scary, but my patterns, ego were like, "No, no, no, no. What are you gonna do with money? How are you gonna have health insurance?" Like,
right.
talking myself out of it for years, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
so powerful. It's
Oh,
so
it
powerful to
is.
talk about.
It really is. This is I tend to talk about a couple I refer to it as the rat race, right? It's this we're on this constant search for what's next. If I can just get this next set of conditions, if I can just get this next set of proof that I've arrived, but I don't even really know what that means, then I'll be free.
Yeah.
And that's really what everyone wants is a sense of freedom from this paradigm that we're stuck in. But again, we don't think about it that way. We think it's going to be in the thing where we're going to find that peace of mind and that fulfillment. And it's not. That's the fallacy. Because the moment you reach it, you got a whole new game that you're playing with a whole new set of concerns, with a whole new set of
Yeah.
conditions, and it just
So true.
on you go. So in my book, I refer to it as the unwinnable quest because it's just we are on this constant search that is really quite exhausting. It zaps our life force, and then we end up.
So where is the freedom? If we're all seeking
Mm,
freedom, peace, purpose,
yeah, yeah.
how do we get there? That feeling of freedom.
Yeah.
What do we need to do, Amy?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there's well, you gotta read the book. Because it's all in there, and the 5 choices really stack to provide the answers to exactly that, and, each of these choices that I detail in the book are on their own, are really are can can get you to that place of joy and freedom, but together they really work, in this incredible, um, integrated way. That so to answer your question, we have to, and I think it was Michelle that says, where's the passion? We have to first learn to, how do we drop into that feeling state so that I can feel it out? What is it that I'm feeling for? What is it that I'm going for? And so if we're trained to figure it out, right? And so figuring it out, we all know what that feels like. It's frenzied. There's a lot of energy up in the head area. We're like strategizing, and it could be very buoyant energy where we're like, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This feels great. But it just feels like we're mapping and strategizing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that again is playing the unwinnable quest game really well. And so that's fine. You're going to get dopamine. You're going to feel great, but it's not going to get you to that end state of freedom. So we just want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
So we need to be able to differentiate that feeling reality of to this deeper feeling state of, oh, this just feels right. And you can tell by how you talk to yourself. How many times have you said,
Mm,
oh, this just feels right versus
yeah.
that sounds like a good idea?
Right.
Notice where I'm referencing where it's like, oh, that sounds like a good idea versus this just feels right. This,
Yeah.
oh yeah, I can feel it in my gut. I feel it in my heart. And
Mm,
what I use this distinction between expansion and contraction because all the studies I've done about consciousness and I love the intersection between science and spirituality, and namely consciousness studies. Something I've come to understand is that the universe is expanding by the principle of expansion and contraction, expansion and contraction. And so that's just a principle of existence we're all living within. So we've got this expansion contraction. And so if that's kind of how we operate here, then that's also what's happening for us. And so when I'm coaching myself, when I'm coaching folks, it's like, okay, well, what feels expansive? What feels contracted? And
mm.
and you really have to clue in because your
Yeah.
mind, for the really good ideas that really sound great, you're going to be like, oh yeah, no, 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 this feels good. But there's still going to be a little bit of, so you have to be
Totally.
honest with yourself. So what feels, and I always use this word, what feels like there's relief.
Mm.
Relief is the opposite of resistance, and something I'm a big, big, I don't want to say stickler about, but something I really teach is that resistance is the thing that gets in the way of flow. Resistance is a pushing against. And so, again, I talk about that a lot. So, what's
Yes.
the opposite of resistance? Relief.
Mm.
So, if I can feel relief in my options, then that's the path of least resistance, which is the path of most abundance, which is the path to that sense of freedom and joy and fulfillment that I'm after. So, really feeling for the difference. And so, if you've got a dilemma on your hands where
Yeah.
you're like, okay, do I just got this job offer and, but at the same time, I've gotten this one. Oh, and they both like this one makes a lot of sense. And, and this would look really good on my resume. But this one just feels so good. Like, we've all been in that crossroads where we're in a quandary. And so
Mhm.
this is where you really want to put that to play. It's like, when you really vision out, okay, what would it be like if I chose this? What would it be like if I chose that? Okay, what am I feeling in my body? It's like, oh, so it's that sigh when you feel this. That's the feeling it out. That's it. So, in all
Yeah.
things that I teach, that's the path, even if it doesn't make sense. And
Yes.
that's what's hard for folks. It's like, wait, 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 wait. But that's totally opposite of what I've been trained to do, what I've been doing. And I'm like, right. And how is what you've been doing? How's that working out for you? Right?
Right.
And so
Right.
it's
You can't keep doing the same things and expect different results.
exactly right. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
one aspect of what it really means to feel it out in order to get to that desired feeling state. But let's be clear, that's freedom. That's inner peace.
Yeah.
That's fulfillment. It's love, right? And so
Sure.
following that expansive feeling that really maps more to relief than frenzied, great idea, then that's a clue. Yeah, there's so
This
much
is
more to this
huge.
conversation. We could keep
Oh,
going.
this is hours. I mean, there's so much because this is something I've really started to understand about myself over just recently. And I'll be 35 this year, 34 now. And I think about like, wow, I so many times in my life that feeling of like heart racing, not in an adrenaline way, like freaking out way, and I just ignored it. Kept
Mm.
how often, well, this is how this is what it's supposed to feel like, right?
Mhm,
Or feeling
mhm,
exhausted from something, completely energy drained. Like you're
mhm.
feeling a little sick because you've been working hard, but you're still here and excited, right?
Yeah.
This book is like so in line with your purpose. And for people listening and watching this after, the feeling, it's something you intentionally need to start working on.
Mhm,
It's like the
mhm.
noticing, and it's incredible, Amy, when you do.
Oh,
It's
oh,
life-changing.
it's a game changer.
It
It's a
really is.
total game changer. And I think largely because, again, because of how many of us ambitious folks are, we're trained to be 3 steps ahead, and we're
Yeah,
always thinking about what's next, let me plan for the next moment, like, for example, we've got Memorial Day weekend coming up, right? And
yeah,
so how many people are excited for the long weekend? Amazing, right? So we kick off this Friday, we enter into the weekend, we might have plans, but how many of us are gonna be in the midst of our weekend thinking about, "Okay, well, what am I gonna be doing the beginning of summer? What am I gonna be," and so we don't
yeah,
really stay super present to our moments, and, and that honestly, that right there is one of the biggest ways in which we sap from ourselves just this sense of thriving, fulfillment, joy, and peace. It's just not being present. And there's so much written about this. There's so much about this. And so this book isn't a book about mindfulness and presence. However, it is a huge part of what it takes to really thrive, because if we want to feel that sense of fulfillment and joy, it's right now.
yeah,
It's not in my thoughts about tomorrow. It's in right now. And so a really powerful practice or mechanism to stay present is to truly just decide to care about how you feel. Because when are you feeling? You're feeling it right now. What are you feeling right now? I'm feeling expansion. I'm feeling constricted. And so to drop into that feeling state and to commit to caring more about how you feel and letting your feeling be a bit more of your guide,
yeah,
it naturally makes you be more present, which is where life is. And if you're more present, now you're gonna feel more joy because this is all that's real anyway.
yeah.
So there's a lot to say about that, but
Yeah, and, I
let's
wanna say hi to Sunil. That's my mom, Marilyn. Hi, mom. Michelle Larson goes back to finding the passion and what brings you joy, having to go to work excited every day. Amy, as you were talking, I couldn't I think we would be missing, um, there's a lot of pain going on right
oh
now,
my gosh, yeah.
here in Texas, the shooting, and, it's heavy.
Oh my gosh.
And there's just all of us are feeling the pain
Mhm.
of that.
Mm.
And you have children, your child is experiencing things. There's a lot, it's been a lot for everybody. And it
Oh my gosh.
feels like, man, are we gonna it's like I talk to people and they're just like, this isn't gonna change. I don't believe anything anymore. Right. Just
Mhm.
like really the negative, because you talk in the book, you go through the emotional scale, right?
Mhm.
This like very negative emotions.
Mhm.
Um, and so to say, oh, it's Memorial Day weekend, be present,
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah.
then, we're in the midst of like a lot of shit on multiple levels. what is your thought for in those moments, right? And then to continue on the path, to still be living on purpose, to
Yeah.
still show up in our purpose while we're suffering or
Yeah.
upset.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for bringing this up. I mean, this is such an meaningful and significant conversation, and it's not an easy one to have, and I would be, I mean, and in no way am I about to say that I've got answers for any of this. I've just got, thoughts about what can help us through. And,
Yes.
it all is based upon the perspective that we choose to hold. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've read enough, I understand enough to know that the world out there is really, it's objective. I mean, there's a world out there, but what we experience is due to the lens that we hold. It's, and so that lens really is going to determine our reality, right? How we choose to perceive something is going to dictate our reality. And so, by and so what I tend to focus on is we can't, I mean, as much as we can, and we are, and we will, we're human. We're going to do what we can to change the conditions out there, because that's why that's part of what we do. But in addition to doing the work to changing the conditions out there, to make it safer, to make it more inclusive, to make it whatever it might be, we also have to equally do the work to change and mind our lens, so that we can be in a state of being that's effective. And so I'm going to go back to, again, some what I tend to consider universal principles. In addition to this expansion and contraction, right? This is a very dualistic sort of experience. We also are living in this plane of existence that has duality, which
Yeah.
we all experience. There's light and then there's dark. We can't have light without dark. We cannot have birth without death. We cannot have up without down. It's just the natural order of things. And so, um, something I focus on is that we grow equally in the light and in the dark.
Mm.
And we tend to not want to talk about the times that we're growing in the dark, because it's usually riddled with shame. And that in and of itself, that's a whole other topic we could dive into. But, for anyone listening in, think about all the times that you've experienced hardship, trauma, tragedy, um, failure, where it's like, oh, I don't,
Yeah.
we don't want to talk about it because of the pain that's there. And it also seeds our growth. So something I talk about is that we tend to consider this stuff as shit. It's like, these are shitty moments,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be. It can be fertilizer. So, I consider all shit to be manure, because we do grow in the dark as much as we grow in the light. Now, we're in an incredibly exceptional time right now with what's going on with Texas, and it's hard to take a situation like that and really think of this as manure, not shit
Yeah.
and manure. And so for situations that are so grave and significant, um, we really do need to honor the just the reality of that it's painful. We are human. We're going to feel the emotions. We have to feel the emotions. And we do have the gift of time. And, dependent upon how grave and how shitty the situation is, that is that that element of time is going to really determine just when the blossoms emerge. Now, this is the situation we're dealing with right now in Texas, and the shooting. Like, we're going to need a lot of time for that.
Yeah.
But the minor shitty moments, right? Might
Shift
see
a
how,
little.
oh,
Yeah.
actually, this is seeding my growth. So,
Yeah.
um, really, the principle is just about how can we meet this with as little resistance, and recognize that,
Mm.
just by but resisting it actually eats up our resources to do something about it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of my, I'm really, thank you for, I know this is like a little heavier, right? But we must recognize
Mm.
what's happening. And it's one of my favorite concepts in the book, and in working with you in this idea of we grow equally in the dark as we do in the light. I just find that so profound. It has been a difficult time for me personally, right? And to really, that what you talk about, that lens.
Mhm.
Am I going to see this as like the world's falling, or am I going to see this as, what can I learn from this? How can I
Mhm.
grow? And what you're
Mhm.
talking about too, and just like giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves time.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't go to like loving your life and feeling fulfillment and joy if you're like, there's that level of grace that we can give ourselves, Amy, that I think you talk about
Yeah.
in the book really beautifully. You've experienced it as well, that I
Yeah.
think is just really powerful in the journey to living on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's, we're as humans, we're gonna bump up against very contrasting moments, and we're gonna, and the unexpected is gonna come and sideswipe us. That's I heard once, I think it was Marshall Goldsmith who said this, there's a very high probability that low probability events are gonna come and take you out. Like, and that is just so true. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the more we can recognize like all the stuff, and this can be a stretch for people, like all the stuff is, it's just, it is, I mean, this is so
Yeah.
cliche, it is as it is, but to let things be as they are and then decide to work with it all as fertilizer for our growth and transformation, for our health and our wholeness, versus pushing against it. I mean, this whole concept of pushing against is so, to me, it's
Yeah.
so powerful, because when we're pushing against something, it means essentially we're saying, I don't want this, this should be different than it is, I want this to be other than it is. And so when we actively push against something, which is a very human thing to do, and I don't know if we're ever going to be at a place
Yeah.
where we not do that, we're going to do that. But
Yeah.
here's the thing, when we push against, we're taking up a lot of resources to
Right.
push against. And so think about the nature of resistance itself, right? It requires energy. It requires um, it requires bandwidth, right? And so I use an analogy often when I'm talking with people. It's like, okay, well, here's resistance. Like, I've got this pitcher of water right here. So if anybody's watching, for those that are listening, I don't know, but if you're watching, I got this really heavy pitcher of water. It's probably about 5 pounds that I use to fill up my water glass. Now, if resistance is like me holding this outstretched from me as I'm talking to you, right? So if I'm going to be pushing against, if I'm not liking my conditions, I'm resisting it, which is essentially holding this out while I'm talking to you. Now, this keeps me kind of ineffective in my ability to talk with you. So what do? I put it down. So when we're actively resisting things, it's just getting in our way of being effective.
Mm,
Now,
mm,
but I'm not at all advocating that we become tolerant of crap, that we tolerate mediocrity, that we become doormats. That's not at all. It's
yeah.
that we stop the pushing so that we have that bandwidth to be innovative. We have that bandwidth for flow. And
Mm,
so, as early as we can in those really hard experiences and the unwanted experiences, you're going to push, let yourself push. That's fine. But then you're going to have to decide, okay, if I really want to do something about this, I have to reclaim my bandwidth, because
yeah.
otherwise I'm giving myself half the bandwidth to come up with solutions, to connect with others, to innovate amazing, ways out of this. I'm just eating up my resources.
Yeah.
So, I
Yeah.
talk quite a bit about that in various.
It's an amazing concept. It is truly something. I mean, she talks about it in the book, y'all. And I really can't. I've read a lot of books, self-help, whatever you want to call it, mindfulness, and this book is really phenomenal. She did really a really phenomenal job.
Thanks, Rachel.
Looks like you got Rick Barron here saying now reading your book. We got Nicola,
Woo!
and
Thanks, Rick.
there's something cool, going on with Amy in her book launch. So one, the Kindle version is out,
Yeah, and the
and
audio version.
the audio version. So we have audio available. You have a little giveaway. So we'll drop a link to that giveaway going down for the book. But people that purchase this book now are going to have a really special opportunity with Amy, exclusive event, small group, Ask Me Anything spot coaching on June 24th. Amy is the go-to person in the Bay Area for top executives and leaders. I mean, she's working with top of the top. She is the best of the world when it comes to executive and leadership coaching. I don't say that lightly. It's true. And to get an opportunity to purchase her book and support, and then get a spot coaching hour-and-a-half session, I'll be there to listen, is really cool. Really, really cool. Not only is it rare, it's just a really cool opportunity to get support from her, because she just doesn't do a lot of like group stuff, because she's working with teams at Salesforce and LinkedIn and all these amazing teams. So if you're here today, please support this amazing woman. Buy this book, listen to it, Kindle audio. That being on purpose to support her, we give, right? We support each other. Those that are listening today are part of our family. Hopefully they're part of our family, Josh and I. And so Amy's a special guest in our community coming up exclusive in July. So these are unique opportunities for you to be with her and pick her brain and to get support. And I really suggest that people take advantage of the opportunity. It's rare. With that, Amy, we're coming here to a close. I'm so proud to know you. This book is changing lives. It is a top seller on Amazon already. It's going to continue. You're getting featured across the globe. Y'all, just watch out. Watch out, because Amy, and there's more books to come. So thank you so much for being here today and gifting us with your knowledge. I really appreciate you so much.
Oh, Rachel, truly, thank you so much. Brought a tear in my eye. It's truly a pleasure. Truly a pleasure. Thank you. This has been a joy, and I honor you, and thank you. You and Josh.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, y'all. Well, have a beautiful rest of your May. Be back in June. Please reach out. And with that, we'll see you next time.
That's right. Bye.